Hello there, friends, and welcome to the Fantasy Maverick podcast. Hey, today we are going to talk about elite wide receivers on a contract year and which ones are best for your team. So stay tuned for that. And at the very end, I've got a bonus contract year wide receiver that you definitely need to have on your target list for this fantasy season. So here we go.
Listen up. It's time for the Fantasy Maverick podcast, starring the guy who's going to help you win that fantasy championship, Jimmy Maverick.
Hello there, friends, and welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Maverick podcast. My name is Jimmy Maverick, coming at you from Santa Fe, New Mexico, where we just had a beautiful day today, man. 60 degrees, sunny skies, no wind. You just can't get any better than that at this time of the year. And it's so nice that spring is here. We got flowers springing up and leaves starting to sprout on some of the trees. It's just a really nice time of year. And it's nice to be able to get outside when you're stuck in the house for 2 weeks now. So I hope you're having nice weather where you're at. And today we are going to talk about wide receivers, elite wide receivers that are on a contract year this year. And we're going to rank them to see which are the ones that I like best for your fantasy team this year. And there's 4 that are in the top 60 that we're going to talk about. And if you haven't already, I invite you to go check out my other video that I did last week about the running backs, elite running backs that are on a contract year, because there's 8 of them on that list. So this is a much smaller list. It'll be a lot easier to handle. But I wanted to talk about contract years because I have an app. It's called My Perfect Fantasy Draft. You can see the thing up there, and that's an app that I have. It's available exclusively through my website. It's a draft tool to help you on draft day to make the right decisions. And one of the things that I very much emphasize is contract year players, because I just love the upside of these players for your fantasy team. So all the players that are on a contract year either this season or on a contract year in 2021 are all clearly identified. If they have a gold dollar sign next to their name, that means it's a contract year this season. And if they have a silver dollar next to their name, that means there's a contract year next season. Now, the way contract year works is it gives a boost to their Outlook score in my app. And Outlook makes up 30% of my score. I call it the VORC score. It stands for value, outlook, reliability, and consistency. So Outlook is 30% of the score. So it's a big component. And when I give bonuses for contract years, it bumps up that Outlook score and it raises their VORC score. And in turn, it will raise those names up the draft list, so they'll be near the top and they'll be prominently displayed for you that, yes, this is the player you need to target. Now, I do have some rules regarding how contract years affect the Outlook score. So when it comes to either quarterbacks or elite players, those are players that are ranked in the top 24. The way it works for them is if they have a gold dollar next to their name, that's good, but it's really not. It's not great. I'll explain why in a minute. But they get a +1 bonus to their Outlook, and there's a maximum score of 5 stars, so they get +1 star. So it's good, right? That's a good thing, positive thing. Those players do have upside. But if they are 2 years away from their contract year, so those players with a silver dollar next to their name, they are going to get a much bigger bonus of +2 stars. It's a big bonus. And so it makes it much easier for those players to be 5-star Outlook, which is the best you can get. That's the highest VORC score. That's the highest Outlook score you can receive as part of your VORC. And that's what you want. You want 4- and 5-star players. Those are the ones that are the most desirable for fantasy teams. So having a contract year really helps that Outlook. Now, the reason why they get a bigger bonus for the farther out contract year is because they are going to they are probably going to get renewed on a contract extension before they reach their contract year season. We see this all the time with quarterbacks. You know, it's very rare that a quarterback goes into a contract year, and if it does, it usually means there's big problems with the quarterback. I'm going to give you some examples. Marcus Mariota, Jameis Winston, and Blake Bortles. These are 3 players that have just recently entered their contract year season. And the reason is because those teams wanted to give him one more chance to show him if they could be the player that they think they can be. And it turns out they couldn't. So now they're all on other teams, right? So that's one problem. And the other problem is for a lot of these players, if they are elite and they make it to the contract year, there's a danger that those players will hold out. And we saw that. Melvin Gordon did it. Zeke did it, okay? It's a real risk. And that's why they get a bigger bonus if the contract year is 2 years out as opposed to this year. Now, as far as everyone else, which is talking about all the players after pick 25 ADP, it's just the opposite. They get +2 bonus if it's a contract year this season, and they get a +1 bonus if it's a contract year next season. So again, the reason is because it very rarely do wide receivers, running backs, and tight ends get contract extensions before their contract runs out. They usually run through their contract year season and then they get their extension. Only the elites really get the contract extension early. So those are the guys that you really want for your fantasy team. But as far as I'm concerned, man, contract years are positive across the board. And I only mark the players that are on contract years off their rookie contract, okay? I mean, like last year, you had Tom Brady and Cam Newton. Those guys were both on a contract year. I didn't mark it in my app because when you're talking about a player who's had 2, 3, 4 contract extensions, it's not as big a deal. There's not as big a bump in pay. I'm going to give you an example. Right now, Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback of the NFL, is scheduled to earn a whopping $5.2 million in 2020. That's what his contract says. And that may sound like a lot. Perhaps you're not familiar with how much quarterbacks earn. But as a comparison, Kirk Cousins, who is clearly not nearly as good a quarterback as Patrick Mahomes, is going to make $35 million, okay? So when you've got players on these rookie contracts, they're earning a pittance. They're earning $1 million a year, $2 million. I mean, yeah, I'm saying that $1 million a year is a pittance. It is in the NFL, okay? It is. And when these players get to these contract years, that pay can go from $2 million a year to $15 million a year. Or $10 million a year. I mean, it's an order of magnitude larger than what they're ever going to see in any future contracts. So because of that, that is a huge motivator. I mean, can you imagine if your boss came to you and said, hey, Jimmy, I'll tell you what, if you do a really good job for me this year, if you really bust your butt and really kick some butt and really do good for the company, I'm going to increase your pay by 10 times what you're earning now. Would you be motivated? Well, yeah, I would be totally motivated if that happened. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen. Our boss comes to us and gives us a 50-cent raise and expects us to be happy about it, right? That's how it is. But it's not how it is with these guys coming off rookie contracts. So that's when you look at my app, you're going to see these little identifications next to all the players that they're relevant to. And those are the players that you definitely want to get on your target list. So, let's go on. Let's go on to the list. Now, like I said, there's 4 players on contract year this season, 4 wide receivers that we're going to talk about. I'm going to rank them. So my lowest ranked contract year player is Mr. Juju Smith-Schuster, who I love as a player. I think he's great, but he was such a huge disappointment last year, man. I took him in one of my fantasy leagues, and I tell you, man, he was a big reason why that team did not make the playoffs. I actually ended up in 4th place, which should have given me a playoff slot, but I got screwed because we did divisions, and it took, and all the 4 highest ranked teams in one division, which I was in, we were all in the same division. So it ended up in the end, it cut me out, and it took the top player from the other division, who summarily lost in the first round of the playoffs, where I would have won, but regardless, water under the bridge, man. It happened last year. But anyway, Schuster was a total non-factor for the offense, man. He only got 70 targets. He played 12 games, injured for big chunks of the season, ended up with 42 receptions for 562 yards and 3 touchdowns. Now, one of the reasons why I'm very unenthusiastic about Juju is just the situation with the quarterback. And right now, you got Ben Roethlisberger, who's 37, coming back from a season-ending elbow injury on his throwing arm, and we're just supposed to expect that he is going to be the guy again. He's going to be able to do what he did in previous seasons when he was at peak form. I'm just not buying it. And the fact that they just haven't, the Steelers have not brought in any free agency talent. I mean, if they brought in Jameis Winston or Cam Newton, I'd be a little bit more encouraged. But they're not. They're not doing that. I don't think they've got plans to draft a quarterback in the draft, except for maybe a late round. So this is just not a good situation for Juju. And I'm afraid that he's going to disappear again. Now, he still gets the bonus. And he's actually pretty cheap, man. He's at ADP number 35. So he's right at the end of the third round. Maybe you can get him in early fourth round. But frankly, there is another guy that's available after him who is also on a contract year who I would take 100% of the time over Juju at this point. All right. But we'll get to him in a minute. So that's my feelings on Juju Smith-Schuster. Even though it's the contract year, that whole quarterback situation, I hate it. So I don't want to deal with it, and I'm not going to take the risk. I'm not sure I'm willing to take the risk on any Steelers offensive player this season. That's where I'm at right now. So let's move on. Number 3. All right, now number 3 is an elite option, the highest ranked player, the highest ranked wide receiver on a contract year. That's Mr. Chris Godwin. And Godwin was amazing, man. He had an amazing breakout season last year. He played only 14 games, but he had 121 targets, catching 86 passes for 1,333 yards and 9 touchdowns. Wow, elite wide receiver production there. Now, it helped that he was juiced by Mr. Jameis Winston, who was on a contract year last season, as you will recall, threw for 5,000 yards and 30 touchdowns, all right? So that clearly helped juice his numbers, got him that wide receiver one ending there. I mean, and really, just hats off. Godwin played great last year. I've got nothing bad to say about him. But now we've got 43-year-old Tom Brady coming in. Now, who really thinks that Tom Brady could replicate the stats of 5,000 passing yards and 30 touchdowns that Jameis Winston got last year? All right? I'm going to say it's a low probability event. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. Low probability. So even if he gets, let's say he gets 4,000 yards, okay, 4,000 passing yards, it'd be a great season for a quarterback. Great season, successful season, but that's 100 fewer fantasy points going to wide receivers than what happened this year. And so you've got some downside risk here that I think that people aren't really considering. And even though I very much like Godwin as opposed to Evans for this season, just because of Godwin's role as a slot receiver, and I'm very sure that he will become Tom Brady's favorite target, but you've also got other issues. You've got also the issues that is O.J. Howard going to become a factor now? Brady loves his receiving tight ends. Is he going to convince Arians to switch to that? And then likewise, are they going to bring in a receiving running back, which they really don't have right now with Ronald Jones, and Peyton Barber is not on the team anymore. So you've got those things in. So those guys are going to be taking some targets as well. So that's why I've got Godwin ranked third. And also just the fact that you have to take him basically early in the second round, right? This is for the guys that are picking late in the first round, early second. And I got to say, the wide receiver position is just so deep this year that I don't think you need to spend an early pick. I think you can wait till the third round. You can still get yourself wide receiver ones in the third round. And so that's another strike against Godwin. But, again, I think he's going to be good. I just don't think he's going to be worth the pick at number 15 overall. All right. So that's just my big concern with him. That's why I'm ranked third. Okay. So let's move on. Ranked second, we got Kenny Golladay, whose current ADP is at 23, which I like. That's the end of the second round, but you might be able to get him early third. It depends on how the tight ends and the quarterbacks go. Now, in my opinion, I think that you're going to see 2 tight ends. You're going to see Kelsey and Kittle, and you're going to see 2 quarterbacks. You're going to see Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes all go in the second round. Now, if that happens, what you're going to see is a lot of wide receiver ones falling to the third round. And that's where I like to target my wide receiver one. If I want to go for an elite wide receiver one, I would wait till the third round to do it. Kenny Golladay is that option. Now, he had a great season last year. He had 119 targets, caught 85 balls for 1,190 yards and 11 touchdowns. Awesome. Great job. And the thing that's even more impressive here is that Kenny Golladay did it he did half the season without his starting quarterback. Matthew Stafford only played 8 games. But I got to say, Matthew Stafford was playing excellent, so good in those first 9 games. He had 2,500 yards and 19 touchdowns in those first 9 games, which would have put him right near the very top of quarterback production outside of Lamar Jackson for fantasy purposes. So actually, I got to say, related to Kenny Golladay, if you get Kenny Golladay and you stack him with Matthew Stafford, I really like Stafford. He is currently the QB 12 coming off the board at about pick 110. So he's super easy to get. And I think, obviously this team is a team that constantly plays from behind, constantly has to throw the ball a lot. Kenny Galladay's on a contract year. I think there's just blow up potential. I love Kenny Golladay for the upcoming season. So he's my number 2. He's my number 2 contract year wide receiver, elite wide receiver that you need to target. And if you can get him in the 3rd, that's what I'm saying. If you've got, if you're one of those picks that's picks 1, 2, 3, right in that range, you come around, take another running back in the 2nd round, then you come around and Golladay is still sitting on the board there with your 3rd pick, I'd take him. I would totally take him. So, I don't think I would take him in the 2nd round, though, just because for the same reason as Chris Godwin. I think that the wide receiver position is so deep this year. You're not going to have a problem finding very productive wide receivers later in your fantasy draft. All right, so let's go to my number 1. Number one contract year wide receiver that you absolutely need to put on your target list is Mr. Cooper Kupp. Amazing bargain right now, okay? He is currently sitting at ADP number 39, early 4th round. That is perfect. And I'm telling you, Cooper Kupp is a wide receiver 1. He will be a wide receiver 1 for your team. Now, last year, obviously people have a lot of concerns about Kupp, concerns about his injury history, but he did play all 16 games last year. He ended up with, 134 targets, caught 94 balls for 1,161 yards and 10 touchdowns. So he has a real connection with Jared Goff. I very much appreciate that. And Cooper Kupp is the guy that is available after Juju Smith-Schuster. This is why I would never pick Juju Smith-Schuster right now. If Schuster fell into the 40s, I'd consider maybe taking a gamble on him with like a 5th round pick, right? But I got to say, Cooper Kupp, 100% of the time, I will pick him ahead of Juju Smith-Schuster at this point in the draft. So if I have a late 3rd, early 4th round pick, I would absolutely take Cooper Kupp. Now, obviously, my biggest concern right now with the Rams is the fact that Gurley's no longer on the team, and there doesn't appear to be a clear RB1 for this team. And as you know, this team is built off of the play action, off of the screen passes. So they need to have a threat in the backfield in order to make this offense productive. And they don't have that right now. They didn't get anybody in free agency. Like, I'm really surprised they didn't go for Melvin Gordon or someone like that. But we'll see if they'll draft someone. There are a couple of good running backs in this draft, but the Rams don't even get a pick till late in the 2nd round. So it's like pick 61, I think is what their first pick is. So, we're going to have to wait and see on this. But regardless, man, I got to say, I think Cooper Kupp is golden this year. Man, contract year for this guy. He's got, he catches so many touchdowns from Jared Goff. I think the touchdown upside of this guy is fantastic. So, I can't believe he's available this late. And as an aside, go a little bit later in the draft, someone who's not on a contract year, but Robert Woods, also awesome. Also an awesome choice, also cheap to get. I think he's in the 40s. I don't have his number in front of me right now. But both those guys should definitely be on your target list. But Cooper Kupp, let's say you're able to get him in the 4th round as your wide receiver 1. I would be ecstatic if that happened. And it looks like you can get that pretty much every time. Now, of course, it's still early. He will probably move up, and I'm betting Juju's going to move down. But for right now, man, I got to say, Cooper Kupp, contract year, superstar, get him on your team. So those are the 4. But before I go, man, I want to just talk about going back to contract years and everything. If you're concerned about someone like Cooper Kupp because of his injury history, and that is, that is a concern to have. I mean, he's been injured a lot. I'm not as concerned about that because when it comes to contract years, these guys seem to get the superhuman durability, all right? And they are a lot more able to absorb punishment. Why? Because their boss told them he'll increase their pay by 10 times if they do a good job this year, okay? So that's why they got motivation. They are playing for the big payday. I want a part of that. Injury-prone players become much more durable during a contract year, and they get big discounts on their ADP because of that injury risk. I mean, Cooper Kupp, like I said, at ADP 39 doesn't make any sense unless you consider that people also consider him very risky because of his injury history. I wouldn't worry about it. I'm going for it all in on Cooper Kupp. Now, I'm going to give you one more name because this guy, he's not in the top 60. So this receiver is very easy to get right now. And in your middle rounds, you definitely need to target this guy. This is your bonus. This is your bonus contract year wide receiver who could become a wide receiver 1 this year. And you're not going to believe it when I say it, but here it is. It's Will Fuller. Will Fuller's on a contract year this year. Now, why do I like him so much? Well, it's not just that Will Fuller's on a contract year. Deshaun Watson is also on a contract year. His contract year is 2021, so he's got the silver dollar next to his name. So Deshaun Watson's going to be playing his mind out this year because, again, his upside is going to be $40 to $45 million a year as compared to what he's earning right now, which is not nearly close to that if he gets the contract extension. Also, Hopkins, gone. Fuller is the number 1 on this team, and he has a great connection with Watson when he's healthy. And I think he's going to do whatever it takes to stay healthy and stay on the field this year. His ADP is number 88 right now. 8th round pick for a guy with wide receiver 1 upside. I definitely want a piece of that. So that's your bonus contract year player, Will Fuller, Cooper Kupp. Man, I got to tell you, if you got both those guys in your draft, you're going to be in great shape, okay? you probably take, at that draft position, Fuller will probably be your 3rd wide receiver. So you probably could get another one in there, okay? But let's just review. So my rankings again, Juju Smith-Schuster's number 4, Godwin's number 3, Galladay's number 2, Cooper Kupp's number 1, bonus 1 is Will Fuller at pick number 88. These are guys that you definitely want to put on your target list for this fantasy season. But if I was going to pick, man, and I get Kupp and Fuller as my wide receivers with one more as a reserve, because of the risk, I'm telling you, man, you're going to be golden this year. So thank you very much for watching the Fantasy Maverick podcast. Please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Please comment down below. I love to hear from you guys. I'm super happy at the feedback I got on the last video. So I hope you enjoyed this one. And I'll be giving you updates on what's going on with my draft tool as well as we get closer to that. But right now, man, everything's great. It's so awesome that right now, basically the only thing that's happened right now is NFL. NFL offseason is in full swing and it's still happening. Everything's happening. And that's so great that we still have that, that our season hasn't been interrupted or canceled because of this outbreak, this pandemic. So that's good, man. That's good news. That's good things for all of us. So thank you very much for watching. Please take care of yourself. Take care of your family. Enjoy this time and stay safe. And I will talk to you next week. Thanks for watching.